Rift of Nations, Session 8. Oh, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek of a brand new system that I have just came up with and play tested for the first time called Combat Challenges. And oh man, it was so fun. I'm going to do a full video on this on the main channel, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you're, I feel like you have to be on the main channel if you're watching this video. But anyway, I'll give you all the general idea of what this whole thing is and how I ran it off. And then that full video will be on the other thing. So okay, session 28, what I thought was going to happen was they picked up in a prison. They were in a prison. They just escaped and they were just rescued. There are two people and this one other evil dwarf. Who is this evil dwarf with necromantic powers? I don't know. He was a prisoner and they set him loose on accident out of nowhere. What's going on there? So anyway, they are about to escape. They bust through the door and it opens up and they're in the dead middle of this entire prison camp. It's this huge fortress and in the dead middle of it is the prison and they are right there. The alarm's sounding off and they now have to escape. And right beneath them, there's a river that cuts through the center of this whole place and they are going to die. I thought they were going to dive into the river and try and escape this way. And I was correct in my thoughts. So the battle map that I prepared, all this other stuff that I prepared, it was modular enough to where I could move it if they did something else, but I had it set up for them in this combat challenge situation. So here's the overview from my point of view right here. Omni was the Warforged that they had just rescued. This was a very important character. This important character, they had the special ability to be able to swim very fast. They could fly. They could do all these very powerful things. They could heal, lots of powerful things. But every time they tapped into any sort of notable power, they would explode, like the energy explosion beforehand, which is very dangerous. And then the power would happen, and then they would explode again. Very unstable. I did this on purpose to have a very important NPC that's powers were blocked by unideal circumstances. That's an important thing. So whenever you have, if I just had this be a very powerful NPC, then this powerful NPC could just take over the game for them and they could have this NPC solve all their problems and no big deal, right? Right? So I introduced this flaw to this character for that. So there's that. So sessions started off, we had a little bit of role play stuff before before all that happened, and then the combat challenge went down. I outlined the combat challenge of how it goes on and how it works and the rules there. You can kind of stop and see that, I guess. But I'll get into it in a second. There was different successes for different things going on during this combat challenge, and then the different abilities and stuff the bad guys can do that I never really got into that too terribly much because there's just too much going on. And then these are different checkpoints during the combat challenge that I threw at them where Claude swooped in, and then their arrows, which I actually didn't even do that one or that one. The soundstage showed up. I did that one, and then I never did that one. So I just had different checkpoints where I could choose to, at the top of the round or end of the round or whatever, I could choose to throw in a curveball from this little buffet of different options here. Those are the only ones that I ended up doing. Everything else, there's too much going on. It would have been too much of a cluster. And then they did have some downtime afterwards. I went through some of this stuff, which I guess we'll get to some of that later as well. So now, what's a combat challenge? They are standing there just escaping a prison and they are going to leave, right? So how I set up the combat challenge was each round you were able to spend your turn going towards something. You can use your action, bonus action, reaction, all that kind of stuff, sure. Well, I guess there's not a reaction in this. That never came up during this. But anyway, you can spend your turn in whatever way that you want. First of all, time is different. This is You're not going to escape from a prison in, something that's probably going to be about 5-6 rounds is a longer combat in D&D. A normal combat is like 3 or 4 rounds. So this I was assuming to be probably about 6 rounds or so. And 6 rounds is 36 seconds in real time. You're not going to get from the center of a fortress to the outside. That doesn't make any sense. So each round was representing about a minute. It's kind of how I had it go, right? So whenever I told them, I was like, when you tell me what you do, think of it at the macro big level of what you're trying to do. It's not, I'm going to attack that person. I'm going to run over there and attack these people, right? And it's going to be more cinematic and epic and all that kind of stuff, right? And each round you get one type of check that you're making towards it, sometimes 2 depending on what you're going on with. So there might be checks that I need you to make to set up the big check that you're going for, but I need to know what your intent is. Are you trying to get out? Are you trying to offensively take down people? Are you being defensive? What is your intent of your overall turn of what you're trying to do? And then what are you trying to get out of it? All that kind of stuff, right? So And I told them there's different things to gain successes on. There's successes to be gained towards escaping, and you need a certain amount of them to get out, right? And that total ended up being 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 12 successes to be able to get out. Now, that might sound like a lot. The DC was 15. This is a group of level 5 characters. The DC was 15, and if they hit 20, it was 2 successes. And if they hit 25, that was 3 successes. That only happened, well, actually, I'll say it now. We had a double natural 20. Somebody rolled with advantage and hit 2 natural 20s. And if you remember last episode, we had somebody roll 2 natural 1s. So it was absolutely mind-blowing at this. I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, you can accumulate successes, and there aren't really failures. There's just, you didn't do anything good. You didn't succeed, because at the end of every round, some terrible stuff happens. At the end of every round, attacks are made. The enemy's turn, they attack all over the place. I make all the attacks all at once. I issue them out to the people, and it's very quick and efficient, but they take a lot of damage. And then something else happens. I add in a curveball. I did that. A monster. Do I have it here? No, it's over there on the shelf. This big blue monster, this basilisk type Behir situation came up and starts attacking them in the middle of all of this. There's a sound sage, which is this sound mage, came and attack them out of nowhere as well. So each of these things don't have health. Nobody ever rolled for damage. It was purely success driven. You want to attack the Behir? Go ahead, make your attack roll. 15 is a success, 20 is 2 successes, 25 is 3 successes. So you would deal 3 successes worth to the Behir, and it would die in 6 successes is what I had the health of this Behir to be. So it worked out great. It worked out awesome. It was perfect. I asked the players afterwards. I'm going to get more feedback from them later, but even just talking with them afterwards, like that was awesome. Like I didn't have to roll for damage for the thing, and the attack rolls, but it represents for a longer time. Blah blah blah. No. It's basically a skill challenge meets combat blended together. So it worked out great. And they could choose what they wanted to put their successes towards. I want to try and get out of here. I want to try and do this. I want to try and attack this. I want to try and whatever, right? And you can see if I go back to my wrong screen. I go back to my screen here. You can see the successes. The sound sage, they ended up killing the sound mage person. They did escape. They almost killed the basilisk, but this final success, these last 2 successes here, were a skill check. These last 2 successes were a skill check by the sorcerer to entangle, I guess it's a druid / warlock, whatever, entangle the beast down to the ground. And they got 2 successes. And I was like, wow, it's on death's door, but it's almost so exhausted, it's just given up and it's just accepted it's in the vines right there. And then they left it, right? And that was done. But they never really targeted the enemy. So Anyway, that's kind of how the whole thing worked. And the cinematic big picture of how they did it is everybody jumps off into the water. The Warforged is very good at swimming. It actually articulated its body into almost like a boat type situation, a propeller type, magically thrusting itself through the water as they hold on to this thing, and they put ropes around it to kind of hold on. And they literally essentially jet skied with this Warforged with magic water propulsion shooting through the water. But every time every round they'd tell it to go, and it would be like, do you value your life? And it would ask, like, are you okay with me tapping into my magic or not? And they would either say yes or no. If they said no, then it would just travel normally, and it would be a steady, slow pace. But one time they're like, we got to get out of here, go. And they're like, you want me to tap into my magic and people will get hurt? And he's like, yeah, go. And then tapped into his magic. Everybody had to make a Constitution saving throw, and he exploded and dealt a 1d12 damage to everybody. And then he was shot through the water and then stopped and then exploded again and dealt 1d12 damage to everybody. So it was kind of bad. And then they got to the point where they're just over halfway through and they really needed to get out of there, and it was really not looking good. And they finally got everybody because Q, the Warforged, one of the Warforged players, didn't jump on he wasn't on there. He was up on the banks. He didn't get the memo for everybody else that jumped into the water to go. And so he starts to swim after them. And then the Behir comes up in the middle of everybody, separating the party into 2. And now he's stuck on one side. They had to stop for a second, Two of them had to come back to grab him, help get to him, and they had stabbed the Behir, and that's where two of the successes against the Behir came from somebody stabbing him. And then they got cute and gathered back, and because they didn't make any progress forward, they weren't saying to escape, they kind of stopped for a second, gathered it up there. Meanwhile, the warlock druid is like wind wall, swirling wind all around to stop the arrows from coming in. Super brilliant move on that point. And that was where the double natural 20 came in. He asked him to make a spell check for his wind situation. He rolled with advantage 2 natural 20s. Absolutely crazy. I stopped all damage for a round. All the attacks I was going to make, the 10 different attacks, I was like, they all fail. They all fail. A freaking double natural 20. What am I supposed to do with that? It was beautiful. It was amazing. So epic. So then all the wind stops the arrows and stuff for that one turn while he's holding them off to get Q, get the player that's straggling behind, get them back to with everybody else. And he says, go now, Mach 2. And he doubled the speed he was going to go for it, which I doubled the successes that it counted towards. And then he rolled 2d12 damage at the beginning. They went really fast. And then 2d12 damage at the end, knocking out a bunch of people. They're taking themselves out. They're taking damage. They're stopping everything. The sound stage is stop. Oh, it's crazy. They get through the outside under. They swim. It's this river current that's going underneath through the center of this prison. They shoot out the other side of it, and the monster swims after them. They entangle it down. The sound stage teleports to where they are. I rolled for how well the teleport went, and they got out and then stopped immediately. So when the sound stage teleported, he teleported right into the middle of them, and because he thought they were going to keep going, so he teleported as far as he could because he couldn't. Yeah, so they were able to dispatch him, take him out quickly, and then escape. And it was beautiful. There's lots of other little small things that happen here and there, but that's the big picture. And it was awesome. I loved the whole thing. And then they got to kind of set up and settle down and talk with each other. And turns out this evil dwarf person was trying to start the end of the world. And he's one of the evil nightmare people that the players are just now figuring out about. And they're like, wait, he's one of these people. The ritual's already started because how much do I get into this? This nightmare person is a Lavishtar, which is part of the nightmare people that are starting this whole nightmare, making people forget about things stuff. He's been disconnected from the network of the nightmare plane, and he's been out of the loop because he's been in prison and stuff. He's like, we need to start the ritual now because he didn't know what's going on. He's been in prison for a while. Turns out they've already started the ritual, and it's happening over in the desert nation. And then he finds that out, and then they are like, wait, what's going on? So they actually found out a lot of information from this guy. Again, I don't want to go down the whole tangent there because I'm trying to keep things light and over the top here for you guys. And I do eventually want to stream my games, but I'm going to be doing it for the next campaign instead of this one, because it would, like, y'all be in the middle of nowhere and you wouldn't have any context except for these videos, and I can't even give you the full context in these. But anyway, a lot of interesting information was found out from this nightmare individual that they ended up killing, because once they realized, like, oh, this guy's real bad, but they found out a lot of information from him. There's other characters reunited with NPCs from their backstories, which is beautiful, and they are now off and on the way back to the Wanderers to go take on Sanctuary, which is the capital of this organization that has been in control of all this nightmare stuff. So we'll see what happens with that, but the combat challenge went off great, and I can't wait to make a full video on that. So stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.